Welcome, everyone. I'm Mariquita Solis, the live stream host of all-creatures.org. All-creatures.org was founded in 1998 by Pastor Frank Hoffman and his first wife, Mary, and launched as a pioneer website in the United States for faith-based animal rights veganism. Today, led by our executive director, Tams Nicholson, we exist for all people seeking current animal rights, vegan resources, and offer decades of free animal rights and vegan content, including a huge repository of vegan sermons and Bible commentaries, animal rights strategies, free vegan authored books, recipes, upcoming events around the world, and the works of various vegan authors, poets, and artists. We host current sites for almost 20 vegan and animal rights organizations, including Stop Crush, Unparalleled Suffering, and the Committee to Abolish Sports Hunting. We also maintain nearly 25 archival sites from animal rights vegan activism of past decades. The bottom line is that we work to unite compassionate and empathetic vegans across the globe, from the past and the present. Give me 1 second because I think we might have a little echo here. All right. So as I was saying, we work to unite vegans and empathetic humans across the globe who honor the dignity of each and every creature so that all beings thrive on a flourishing planet Earth. So I'm very honored to welcome my friend, Dr. Sailesh Rao. Dr. Rao is the founder and executive director of Climate Healers. He's an environmentalist by occupation and a systems engineer by profession with a PhD from the Information Systems Laboratory, Stanford University, Stanford, California, USA in 1986. He invented the protocol for transforming early analog internet connections into more robust digital connections while accelerating their speed tenfold. Still today, any data accessed on the internet likely passed through a device implementing this protocol. Dr. Rao is also a human, earth, and animal liberation activist, HEAL, husband, dad, and since 2010, a star-struck grandfather. He has promised his granddaughter, Kimaya, that the world will be largely vegan before she turns 16 in 2026, so that people will stop eating her relatives, the animals. He has faith that humanity will transform to keep his pinky promise to Kimaya, not just for ethical reasons, but out of sheer ecological necessity. He has created a climate bathtub model to help humanity understand the system solution space for reversing climate change and enabling a thriving planet. So welcome, Dr. Rao. I'm so honored to talk to you.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, you're a big hero of mine, and recently I got the Climate Healer certification. So I'm excited to explore this more for people that perhaps might not know about climate healers and all of the work that you've done. So first I'd like to just start off with you, asking you, when did you become vegan and what led you to make the transition?
So I became vegan in 2008, a year after I started Climate Healers. Because I started Climate Healers with the idea of reversing climate change. How do you solve climate change? Because I'm an engineer. Engineers solve problems. That's what we are asked to do. That's what we specialize to do. And I was studying the environment, and I was increasingly concerned with the impact of animal agriculture. Okay. But I thought I'm a vegetarian, so I'm not having much of an impact, right? I'm just taking dairy. But if you look at the literature, scientific literature, they always say it's not such a big impact. Most of the impact comes from beef, not from dairy. And then I went to India, and I went to this village in India, in Rajasthan. So it's on the edge of the desert, Thar Desert in India. And I took a picture of this fence between protected land and unprotected land. In the unprotected land, I could see all these old cows walking around eating anything that was growing on the ground. And these were former dairy cows. And I realized that I had been fooled into thinking that dairy was not such a big, did not have such a big impact. In reality, dairy supplies the cheap beef industry. Okay? When I realized that, I mean, I instantly went vegan. On the spot. I realized I have to do it. But then I thought, I love my pizza and I love my curd rice and my milk sweets and all that. How am I going to do this? So I said, I'm going to give myself 1 week. Okay. For 1 week, I'm going to be strict about this. And at the end of the week, I realized this is not so hard. So when I realized it wasn't so hard, I had this huge sense of guilt lift off my shoulders. And I had no idea where I was carrying the guilt from. All I knew is that I felt relief that I don't have to do this anymore. And then within a month, all my arthritic pains, went away. So I had this awakening from an environmental perspective, and then I had a spiritual awakening when I felt the guilt lift off my shoulders, and then my health improved. And only after that I watched Earthlings, and I was so shocked by what we do to animals. I felt ashamed as a species, as a member of this species, right? So that's when I saw the ethical impact that we are doing to animals.
Right. Yes, and that's interesting that you didn't really have to see one of those graphic, or I
Yeah.
mean, not just graphic, but I mean, these are just reality. These are
Right. Yeah.
right. Yes. So it's not just a shock value; it's the truth. So and to realize that you had been deceived, that everything we thought was so nice and happy and this beautiful way of life isn't really the way that it's happening.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I felt like I had been deceived. Yeah, tremendously. Not only because of what I saw in Earthlings, but also because I was told that it's necessary to eat animals for your protein, necessary to drink milk for your calcium. And I remember them telling me about, protein comes from meat. And I remember asking, then am I lacking protein because I don't eat meat? They said, oh yeah, you'll get it in your cheese and, in your dairy products, you'll get some protein in that. So that's how vegetarians are able to get their protein. And when I realized that protein is in everything, all plant foods have all amino acids. I mean, there's hardly any plant food that has any amino acid lacking in it. So when I realized that I'd been lied to in my school, I felt, I felt like violated in some sense. Because, I think lying to children should be a crime against humanity.
Amen to that. Yes, and I like. I think when I was listening to the films that I watched for climate healer certification and talking about Gandhi, and he didn't realize what he needed to get. Could you kind of explore that for us?
Which films are you talking about?
Well, when Gandhi was thinking that he had to have milk, and he
Right,
didn't
yeah.
understand.
Yeah. Gandhi tried to go vegan several times. Okay, he said that. He gave a speech at the London Vegetarians Union in 1931 when he had come to London for the second roundtable conference. And at the London Vegetarians Union, he said, I tried to give up milk several times. And every time I couldn't. Because when I fell ill, my doctor would tell me to drink some milk. And that would solve the problem. And I really think that he probably had a vitamin B12 deficiency. And vitamin B12 was not discovered until 1940s, 50s. So, and they didn't really make vitamin B12 supplements until the 70s, I believe. So he may have had a vitamin B12 deficiency, and then when he drank the milk, he got some vitamin B12 and he felt better. So I mean, that's my hypothesis as to why he
Right.
felt bad and why he had to go back to drinking milk. But
That
he
makes a
knew. You know,
Hmm. Yeah,
he
no, it
knew,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah, he knew he had to give up milk and he couldn't do it. Yeah,
Right. Yes, and I mean, now we have so many more studies and we know how we can, well, everyone needs to take B12, not just vegans. So
right,
we all need that.
right.
Yes, and so when you first went vegan, did you have the supports within your family or friendships, or did you find yourself isolated at the start?
Ah, it's a good question. I mean, I realized that I was different now from everyone else. So with my family, I said, I'm happy to cook for you. I mean, at that time, I was living with my wife and my mother-in-law. My children had all, gone to college, and so my mother-in-law had had a stroke, and so she was paralyzed on one side, and we were taking care of her. So, and she was the last remaining parent among the four of our parents. So we moved to California to take care of her, and um, so when I went vegan and I told my wife, she said, "If you are cooking, I'll eat. Whatever you're cooking, I'll eat. But don't make me go vegan, right?" And I said, "Fine, I'll do that." And my mother-in-law couldn't cook anymore, and she would ask me to make some of her dishes, her favorite dishes. Um, so there's a dish in Gujarati called kadhi, which is made with buttermilk, right? And I made it with soy buttermilk. So I made soy curd and made soy buttermilk, and I made soy curry for her. Because one time she asked me to make this dish, and I made it with soy milk. And she told me, "This is the best curry you ever made." And at that point, I realized, this is a great substitute. I'm not compromising anything in taste, right? And she, and by the way, she went. So essentially, she became vegan, right? Because I was cooking for her. And we could slowly see her doctor reducing her diabetes medication. So all her medication came down within a year.
That's
So it's
amazing.
like incredible transformation that happened to her. But of course, then we had to move her to a nursing home because it was getting too hard on us to lift her and stuff. So then, once she went to a nursing home, the diabetes came back very quickly. Yeah.
Oh, yes, I see that. I mean, it's very sad, but I mean, slowly but surely, our our systems are changing, but they are changing.
Yeah.
So,
The change is happening. See, I believe that in a society um, when a certain percentage, roughly about 10% or more of the people have a strong belief that something is going to happen, that happens. We eventually make it happen. Okay. And I believe today, um, like we had a debate at Oxford in November, and 60% of the students voted for us. And the debate was about, is the world going to be vegan or not? The world should go vegan. And 60% of the students who were not even vegan, not all of them were vegan, but they voted for us saying, yes, the world is going to be vegan.
that's exciting.
Right? So 60%, majority of the students believe the world is going to be vegan. And even in America, even if you look at not just students, but in the general population, roughly half the people are consuming plant based milk. This is why you have half the supermarket milk shelves are filled with plant based milk, not dairy milk. Okay. So it tells you that roughly half the people are trying to go vegan. They would like the world to be. They know the world is going to be vegan because that's what they're working towards. So when that happens, the future is vegan. Okay, so I said the future is vegan. As soon as you know the future is vegan, why don't you seize the future right now instead of going back, right? Instead of clinging to the past.
Right. Well, you have a very good point because I do remember just a few years ago there weren't so many milks, and now it's just incredible. That's a huge triumph.
Right? Yeah, all kinds of milks that you have.
All kinds of milks, and we don't even know. I mean, all the seeds we plant, we might think, oh, nobody's listening to us, nobody cares, but it's absolutely not true. You know, we might not see it, but it's happening behind the scenes. And just the fact that the milks are really, these plant-based milks are everywhere shows that, you know, that things are shifting, and we can never have the attitude that we don't make a difference, because everything we do makes a difference.
Yeah, everything we do has an impact, and the more we operate on the belief that the future is vegan, there's no question in my mind. There is absolutely no question that the future is vegan. The only question is when. When will everyone really embrace the future? And I say the sooner you embrace it, the better off that all of us are, right? What are we waiting for? I mean, we know the future is there, so seize it, right?
Sees
And
it.
yeah, to me, I see what's happening in the political arena as a parallel to what's happening to the vegan movement. It's about embracing the future and not clinging to the past.
I love that. Yes, it is very. It's very similar. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's time to move forward, right? We don't want to be stuck in the past and move backwards. Come on, let's get going. There's so much
right. Let's get
wonderful
going.
benefits. Right, let's get going now. Yes. So let me ask you this. How does the peace of not eating creatures manifest in your life today?
Which one?
How does the peace of not eating creatures manifest in your life today?
Oh, it makes me feel free. I remember I told you I had this huge sense of guilt lift off my shoulders, and I didn't know where it came from. I went to the same village in Rajasthan, in India, a few months later, and I was watching a woman milk her cow. And what she did reminded me of something that I had overheard when I was a child between my grandfather and my grandmother. Okay, because she had the calf tied in front of the mother cow. She released the calf, and the calf ran and started sucking from the udder. And then she tried to pull the calf away within 30 seconds, less than a minute. And she couldn't do it. The calf was too strong for her. So she called her husband over, and they both pulled the calf away from the mother. They tied the calf in front of the mother, and the calf was now bleating because he hadn't even, started drinking. And the mother was licking her baby, and the woman milked her cow. Milked the cow, took about 2 gallons of milk from the cow, and I could see there was nothing coming out of any udder. And then she released the calf so that he could go and suck on the udder again. So it sends a message to the mother saying, you don't have enough milk for your baby, so go produce more next time. So this is how we keep increasing the production of milk in the cows, because we interfere in this sacred relationship between a mother and a child, where if the child leaves milk at the end, the mother produces less next time. The child is still sucking when the mother is dry, the mother tries to produce more next time. So there is a bond between the mother and the child that determines how much milk is produced by the mother. Okay? And we interfere in that as human beings. We are making it look like the calf is really, really big. It needs a lot of milk, right? That's how we try to increase the production of milk. So when I saw that, I remembered the conversation that I had overheard between my grandmother and my grandfather when we had just come to their place from the city, and they had a cow and a calf, and my grandmother was telling my grandfather that that particular calf was drinking too much. He's not leaving any milk for the children. So what should I do? And my grandfather told my grandmother, don't let him drink to his fill. Pull him away after 10 minutes. And as a child, I knew at that point that there was something wrong going on. But I tried to put it away in the back of my mind and forget about it, because I thought that I had to drink this. It was essential for my health. And it's only when I realized I don't have to drink milk anymore that I had that sense of relief, and all that guilt fell off my shoulders. And I really think even the arthritis I had and the sinusitis I had were all psychosomatic, because as soon as I stopped drinking milk, it went away. So it was the guilt that was in me that was building up this pain. So I feel light. I feel I feel energized, and I feel so hopeful and optimistic about the future
Right.
that is in front of us, the vegan future that we are building together. You know,
The freedom and then the spiritual, the divinity of that relationship between that, the sacredness of the relationship between a
yeah,
mother and her baby. And that's so important. And that's what I feel like climate healership is about, stepping into the divine connection. So I love that. And yes, I mean, what is more freeing when you know you're not contributing to this pain of the natural world? I mean, that this
right.
is, you're not interfering. That's beautiful. So, what words of encouragement will you give to a new vegan who's struggling today, possibly isolated or maybe with a family having issues or feeling alone? What would you give?
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
No, I would say, as new vegans, you find like when I first turned vegan, first I had to help get my family to come along to say it's okay for me to do what I'm doing, and they did. Okay. Then, rather than isolating myself, because no one else was vegan around me, right? Rather than isolating myself, I actually increased my social connections. So I would go and stay with people instead of going and staying in a hotel whenever I visited places. I'd go stay with friends I knew or relatives I knew. And I would not compromise on my veganism. I'd say I'm vegan. And then they would ask me, so why are you vegan? So there was always this curiosity, right? Why are you vegan? And then I would explain to them. And I would always make it clear that I love them exactly as they are. I love them as they are, and that I see this um, as a homecoming for all of us. We are all coming home to who we really are. We're shedding all that guilt and all the negative feelings that we burden ourselves with when we participate in this suffering of the animal world, right? And so I see them as fellow travelers on this journey home. But I don't evangelize like that. I just answer questions when they ask me. And pretty soon I noticed that a lot of my friends and family have gone vegan because I, I didn't decrease my social connections, I increased them, you know?
That's very, yeah. I mean, that's a great way to live. I mean, instead of hiding from it, you're accepting and kind to other people. And what's more inviting than that? And then they ask because they feel safe. You
Right,
created a safe space, right? You know, and then they want to be. Then they're curious because they know that you're not going to attack them.
right. You're curious, yeah. And I see that we are all in this together, right? We are all from. So I think of it as a family. We were a family in Africa 500,000 years ago. And then we migrated out of Africa and went to every part of the world. Right? So scientifically, that's really what happened. 50,000 years ago, we migrated to every part of the world. We kind of separated out. And those who went to cold climates had to eat animals, had to drink milk and all that to survive. Those who went to warm climates didn't have to do that. So, but then slowly the people who went to cold climates developed stronger weapons, more powerful weapons than the others because they had to fight, to make this to survive. So they came and conquered all of us. So now it's a global civilization. And so we have become a family again, but a family that's 8 billion strong, right? And so now we have to literally return back to our roots. Because before we started cooking, what were we eating? Eating fruits. you know, you cannot eat raw meat. I mean, it's disgusting, right? All this raw food is just, unless you're eating fruits and vegetables, you cannot survive, right? So that's what we were eating. So we're literally returning back to our roots, okay? And in the process, we are sort of healing the climate. And I say that the earth has spawned us as a species to overcome the ice ages. And so now we no longer have to go back to another ice age again. We can just maintain the temperature, because as soon as we admitted that we are heating the climate, we have a responsibility to heal the climate and to maintain it. You know, so I say that we have a purpose in nature. God didn't, just create us and say, "You go enjoy yourself." No,
No,
you got a job to do.
right. And that job, now talking about that job, tell us about the Pinky Promise.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm an engineer, and I look at numbers and I try to figure out how to solve problems and so on. So I was following the World Wildlife Fund Living Planet report. I was reading that in 2014. It had come out in 2014, and it had data from 1970 to 2010. And it said that between 1970 and 2010, humans had wiped out 52% of all wild vertebrates, wild animals. And I was sitting there calculating, so how many years do we have if we keep doing this? How many years do we have before we wipe them all out? And I assumed that we were killing them proportional to the size of our economy. As our economy grows, we kill more of them. Okay? That's the assumption I made in my calculations. And it's a very crude model. But that model said that by 2026, we are on track to wipe them all out. And I was shocked when I did that calculation. I said, if this is true, why isn't everybody working on this? And I started looking into the literature, and they had come up with a different model. They have something called the predator-prey model. And in that model, they were showing that, yeah, we will kill all the animals, and then we will die off, and then the animals will come back, and then we'll come back. So it's like this, it goes up and down, up and down. This is nature's cycles, right? That's what their model had come up with. And I remember writing to the author saying, "Hey, are you sure that the model is correct? Because we humans, when we kill off animals, we actually use better and better technology to find the last remaining animals and kill them off. Right? We have the tendency to do that because there is money in that. Right? There's money. Whatever makes money, we go off and do it. And I realized that he hadn't taken that into account. They were just using a simple model that's valid for tigers and deers. Yeah. So then I said, okay, I'll have to wait until the next report comes out to see whether my calculations are right or not. And that report came out in August of 2016. And it said that between 1970 and 2012, we killed 58% of all wild animals. So it went from 52% to 58% in 2 years, from 2010 to 2012. So that's 3% per year. And I said, that means that in 16 years, that's 48%, which would be, 100% from 52% will go to 100% in 16 years. So I realized my calculations were spot on, close to reality. And that, we have to do this by 2026. We have to get to a vegan world by 2026. So that was in my mind. And that evening, my job was to put my granddaughter to bed. And she was in kindergarten at that time. She was 5 years old. And I normally just read her a story and then she goes to sleep. She puts her head on my shoulder and goes to sleep. And this time I read her a story by Ruby Roth called That's Why We Don't Eat Animals. And after the end of the story, she put her head on my shoulder and she asked me, Grandpa, who were the first human beings? And I promised her that I'll never ever lie to her, that I'll always tell her the truth. So I was trying to think, how would I explain evolution to a 5-year-old girl? So then I said, imagine that you're standing on the street and you're holding your mother by your hand. And you ask your mother to bring her mother to stand by her side, and so on. So you create a long line of mothers on this side of the street. And on the other side of the street, you ask a chimpanzee to do the same thing with her mother and her grandmother, and so on. By the time these two lines go from Phoenix to Tucson, they will merge. Because both lines are going to say, hey, that's my mama too. Immediately she just sat up in bed. She said, "What? Are you telling me that animals are my family?" And I said, "Now that you put it that way, yeah, they are your family." Because honestly, I hadn't put it together like that. Because she got it. She said, "Animals are my family." Then she started crying. She started bawling. She said, "Grandpa, make people stop. They're eating my family." She started naming names of people she knows who are eating her family. And my heart was getting wrenched out of my chest because I was hearing her cry, because I realized by trying to tell her the truth, I had created a world full of monsters for my granddaughter. She was seeing them everywhere. So I was trying to console her, and I said, "Kimaya, this is what I do. It's my job to make them stop. So please stop crying." She stopped crying. She looked at me. She said, "This is your job? This is your job? You know you haven't done your job?" And then she shook her finger in my face and said, "Do your job." Because, for her, the solution to her suffering was lying right there in front of her, who wasn't doing his job, right? And then she said, "When will you do your job?" And I said, "I better do it by 2026, otherwise we are in big trouble." She said, "Will you promise me that?" I said, "Okay, I'll promise you that." She said, "Will you give me a pinky promise?" I said, "Okay, I'll give you a pinky promise." I had no idea what it meant. Okay. And she said, "Hold out your pinky." And then she locked the pinky in mine and she said, "You can never, ever break a pinky promise." And then she went to sleep. And I couldn't sleep because I realized I made a very serious promise to a young girl on behalf of my generation. And I better figure out, how to help people keep it. Um, and at first I thought, who am I to make this promise? But then I, finally dozed off, and I woke up the next morning realizing that as a systems engineer, usually I'm the first one that people approach and say, "Can you solve this problem? How do you solve this problem?" And I first figure out whether it can be solved. And in this case, it can be solved. Everybody goes vegan, the problem is solved, right? And then, they ask me, "How do you do it?" And that's what I do. That's my job, to figure out how to do it. And so that's what I've been working on since then. Doing producing documentaries and trying to tell the story of how we have to make this transformation happen and why it is going to happen. It's inevitable, it's going to happen. And the sooner the better. Why even wait for 2026 to go vegan? Go vegan now. Because if you wait until all the wild animals are dead, it'll be too late. So we have to do it when there are some wild animals left around so that we can restore them. Don't wait until all the white rhinos are gone and then try to bring back the white rhinos. It's going to be almost impossible, right? So when people argue with me saying that there's still some wild animals left, so 2026 is not an urgent deadline, I ask them, would you have waited when you heard that Hitler was killing Jews, in these horrible concentration camps? Would you have waited saying, "Hey, there's still 2 million Jews left"? Would you have said that? I would not have said that. We would have done everything possible to stop that, right? We should have done everything possible to stop that as quickly as possible. The same situation is happening now. Our children will not forgive us if we wait until they're all dead or close to dying. So the sooner we stop this, the sooner we transform, the easier it will be for them to forgive us.
Yes, you're exactly right. I mean, this is such a powerful story, and it really touches my heart. And I see that that other people are touched also. JJ and Allison are commenting how beautiful this is. Um, and we're going to have some questions in a few minutes. So please put your questions in the chat. And I just would like to just take a moment now after this beautiful inspirational story just to call us back to this beautiful place of peace. And if you'd like to close your eyes, I'd love to just give a little blessing if that resonates. So just calling us back into this beautiful space where Mother Earth is protecting all of us, and we're calling in all of the beautiful creatures here, standing with us, giving thanks for each other. We send love to them, they send love to us, honoring every living being, every drop of water, every ray of sun, every beautiful heart beating on this planet. And we recognize all of us here that are doing such beautiful work for Mother Earth and all of her living beings. And we give thanks for Dr. Rao and Kimaya and all of the beautiful souls. We are all one. Aho.
Thank you, Marikita.
Thank you. I feel very touched, and I'm really honored that Allison's here and JJ. And so let me go on now that I'm so touched. Let me try to gain some composure. So tell us about Climate Healers. How did that start?
Climate Healers started in 2007 because I was working on making the internet 10 times faster. And I came home one day and in 2005 December, and I turned on the TV, and there was Vice President Al Gore talking about climate change. And I was so shocked by what he was saying. I told my wife, if half of what he's saying is true, I feel like I'm wasting my time working on the internet. And she said, if you think it's that important, why don't you look into it? That's how I dipped my toe into this. And after about 3 months, I told her, this is so important that we need to close our company and focus on this full time. And that's what we did. We closed our company. We found jobs for everybody and all that, then we closed it off. Then I wrote to Mr. Gore and I said, how can I help you? So he asked me to come and get trained by him. So I got trained by him in November of 2006. And I was the second batch. I was in the second batch that he trained. I think he's trained like lots of batches now. But during the training, I realized that he doesn't talk about animal agriculture at all. He only talks about fossil fuels. And I had done a back of the envelope calculation based on how much land we're using for animal agriculture. So I asked him, so if we just bring back the forests on that land, can we not reverse this thing? Because for me as an engineer, I was just looking at back of the envelope calculations to see, is there a valid solution? And I could see this as a valid solution, at least at that point. And when I asked that question, he turned to Roy Neal, his chief of staff, and he said, how did this guy get in here? And I realized that he didn't want to talk about it. But then as part of my training, I had agreed to give his presentation 10 times within a year. So I did that. And then I said, I have to look at how to solve this problem properly. So I started Climate Healers in 2007 to bring my expertise as a systems engineer into solving climate change. So that's been the motivation.
Well, what's been your most meaningful accomplishment or proudest accomplishment?
Most meaningful accomplishment? Well, learning from my granddaughter, really. Because ever since she was born, I saw in her the innocence, the original human, That's what we would be without education and all that, right? And I realized I had a lot to learn from her.
Right. I mean, that's, I think about in Christianity, how Jesus says, go back to the way of a child,
Right.
Become like a child. And that is true spirituality. That's the divinity of a child that does no harm, that's connected to Mother Earth, that sees wonder in every tiny being, every tiny little flower. It's a whole different view of the world that we lose often as we grow older.
Yeah. That's where, she taught me that the kind of games we play, or competitive games, that's where our conflicts come from. Because we're taught to play these games, even as children, right? We're taught to play competitive games. Even hide and seek. She didn't like hide and seek the way we were playing it because one time she couldn't find me when I was hiding, and then she came crying afterwards, and she said, "I don't want to play this game. I want to play like this. From now on, I'm going to tell you where to hide." And then she will pretend to look for me in other places because for her it wasn't the finding that was important; it was the playing that was important. She would play shoots and ladders in which she never would go home. She would never reach the end point. She would always come down a ladder instead of going or go up a chute. So she would go round and round the board until she got tired of it. Right? So for her, the rules didn't matter. Whatever rules I was telling you. No, I mean I can always climb down a ladder, not just climb up a ladder. I can go up a chute and climb down a chute. So for her, it was just the playing that was important, not the winning.
That's
Okay,
freedom.
and I realized that's how we are trained to win.
Mm,
We are always trained to win. We are always trained to play competitive games. And that's capitalism, right? Capitalism is about winning. How do how do you win over something else? That was the first thing she taught me. Second thing she taught me was um, the stories we tell are all violent stories. Even for children, if you look at the children's tales that we tell children, like Jack and Jill, Jack fell down and broke his crown, or tales of exploitation. You know, uh, Baba Black Sheep, have you any wool? So he's basically taking wool from an animal, and the animal is giving the wool to human beings. Animal wants to be exploited. So we are teaching our children all this exploitation and the violence through the stories we are telling them in the beginning. So she straightened me out on that right away. I said, "What's wrong with this?"
I love it. That's wonderful. If only we would pay attention to our young children more
Right?
often.
Yeah, I think we can learn a lot from children. I mean, immediately how to be a climate healer. I said to be a climate healer, the best way to do it is to go do whatever a child wants.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and if you're watching, please let us know if you have any questions. And also, make sure you go to it's climatehealers.org,
Yes,
right?
climatehealers.org. Yeah.
Right, climatehealers.org. And please subscribe. And you all have a Climate Healers. I mean, we have a Climate Healers YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel also. We have the Million Vegan Grandmothers who also have a YouTube channel. So the grandmothers have become a very important part of climate healers. And basically, we uh, all our research work, all the way we tell our story, the way we tell our story is that there is nothing wrong with what is happening. It's just the process that we are going through to transform from a climate heating civilization to a climate healing civilization. You know, and for that transformation is going from a system that's based on exploiting animals to a system that's based on not exploiting animals, that's based on veganism.
Right. And you know what's so frustrating for me is seeing people, well, getting the question is, what do we do to keep everyone cool instead of what do we do to stop the problem? Right? What are the band aids we can put on instead of
Right,
addressing the real issue?
right. Yeah. We have a tendency to do that because we don't want to change too much right away. So we're going this way. Well, can we just tweak it a little bit and keep going this way? And I say, no, no. You have to make a U-turn, folks. Because if you keep going this way, you're going to go over a cliff. And there are so many cliffs that we're going over, right? So you can see in the life support systems of the planet, they're all screaming at us to make a U-turn. And that's what I mean by creating a new system. So I say it's like the caterpillar becoming the chrysalis, becoming the butterfly. You have to think of it like that. The caterpillar at some point stops and says, okay, I no longer have to be a caterpillar. I have eaten enough. Just like we have to say as human beings, we have taken enough of the planet for ourselves. Now it's time to give back a little, and bring back the animals, right?
Right, and people have no idea how much land is being taken up by animal agriculture. When I ask my friends, they say maybe 5%. They just have no idea the devastation of it. And I guess when I do say this is how much it is, they don't want to hear it then.
Yeah, yeah. We all. I think we are all. It's now in the ether. Everybody knows, kind of, right? They have an inkling that that's where the main problem is. At least that's my feeling. That everybody kind of seems to know, and they're pretending not to know. Right? And which is a very interesting game to play, pretending not to know.
Right. Well, yes. I mean, even about the pretending not to know that going out to eat these heavy animal-based meals is causing all these chronic diseases and death, and then we just pretend like, well, it's not related to what I eat.
Right. Yeah. But when you pretend not to, it's like my granddaughter playing hide and seek with me, pretending not to know where I'm hiding, right? So she's looking for me elsewhere. In the same way, everybody who's trying to solve climate change are pretending to look for it somewhere else when it's right there on your plate. Right? I mean, in 2015, I was at the American Geophysical Union fall meeting, and we had presented a paper showing that if you just restore the forests that used to be there on the grazing land that we have today, okay, and only 41% of the land we could restore because we didn't, the other 59% of the land we didn't know what was there before, because it was deforested before 1800. Okay, so we just took the 41% of the land that was deforested since 1800, and we replaced the grasslands with the original forest that used to be there. Like grid by grid, we just replaced it, and we added up all the numbers, and we showed that that alone can reverse climate change completely. So we presented that paper, and everybody who came to me, there were like over 100 climate scientists who came and spoke to me during that presentation. They said, "Yeah, you're right, but it'll never happen, right?" And I said, "Why do you say it'll never happen?" Then it hit me why they're saying it'll never happen. Because at their banquet dinner that I attended, they were serving steak as the main course. So for them, it'll never happen because they're eating it. So I'm giving you the numbers, you know. I'm an engineer. I mean, I'm just trying to solve a problem. I'm giving you the numbers. You're going around saying, "Oh, this is such a hard problem. We don't know how to solve it." And saying it's sitting right there, man. You know how to solve it. It's on your plate. And the good thing is they all admitted to me they knew. Okay, they knew that it can be solved, but it
Well, how
never
much
happened.
longer?
Huh?
How much longer can they pretend?
How much longer will they continue with this? I have no idea. But it's just like, I don't know how long my granddaughter took to find me. Right? At some point, she'll get tired of looking for me. Also, she'll say, "Oh, I know where you are," and she'll come and look at me. Right? In the same way, our scientists are going to come and say, "Yeah, yeah, you're right." At some point.
Right. Well, yes. There's going to reach a point where they're going to have to open their eyes and stop pretending.
Yeah. I mean, privately they tell me, keep at it. They tell me, keep at it. You're making headway. So, uh, one scientist who's high up in the IPCC, actually, in the Environmental Panel on Climate Change, he said, um, "We are a big fan of yours." I said, "I don't need fans. I need someone who officially says what I'm saying."
That is hilarious. That is too much. Oh, I love it. Well, oh, well, I mean that I keep the faith, like you say, faith that all will be well, and that we just continue on our path. And so, let me find out, since we're getting close to the end of time here, how can tell me about what events you have in Climate Healers that people might want to know about.
Yeah, we are doing a number of things. We the main thing, one of the main things we do is the vegan convergence of the peoples, which happens every quarter. So we call it VCOP, as opposed to the UN COPs. UN has the Conference of the Parties. And the Conference of the Parties meets every year at the UN. And after attending the 26th Conference of the Parties, I got frustrated and I said, nothing is happening here. I'm sick and tired of coming to this anymore. And I'm not going to do it anymore. So I came back and I asked my team, can we call ours Vegan Convergence of the People? And they all said, yeah, let's do this. And so we meet every quarter instead of every year, because it's an urgent problem and we can't afford to wait. And every quarter we meet and we come and share what progress we have made, and then we help each other get better at what we do. So some people come, regularly. Like Jane Dallas Mitchell comes every quarter, and she talks about what's happening in the media world. So how are we telling our story? How are we trying to get others to come along and join us? And so similarly, the grandmothers also speak about what they've been doing every quarter. I speak about what I've been doing every quarter. So anyway, there are a lot of us who come in on a regular basis. It's like here is my progress report, and how are we doing? People keep asking me, how are we doing in terms of convincing people? I think we are getting through that. That in the ether, it's already there. I mean, this is why I was so encouraged by the Oxford Union debate results, because that tells me that the mainstream students already know that the future is vegan. Okay, whether they are saying it because of animal ethics or because of environment, it's the future is vegan. So in that sense, we are getting through, and so that's the main thing we do: the vegan convergence of the peoples. And then I do, I try to help documentary filmmakers get the story out, get all the facts out, because we have been sort of deceived into going along with the mainstream story, which is all about competition, exploitation, domination, and deception, and so on. And it's only because of the internet we have been able to find all the holes in their story and say, aha, you've been lying to us, right? Aha. There's so many aha moments, that we have shown in the documentaries, right?
Wow.
And the goal there is to wake people up, to see the truth about what's going on, because we no longer have to listen to the official stories. Right? We see what's really going on, and what's really going on is that nature has been in charge. That's the beauty of it. Nature has been in charge all along. She's been using us to heat up the climate, and now she's waking us up and saying, now let's start cooling it. Because as soon as we admitted that we're heating the climate of the planet, we have a responsibility to stabilize it, to stabilize the climate and maintain it on behalf of all creation. Okay. So the rest of creation is looking at us saying, when are you going to start doing your job? Just like my granddaughter was asking me, when are you going to do your job, right? It's the same thing. The animals are looking at us saying, when are you going to start doing your job? Which is to stabilize the climate and keep it there.
Exactly, right. I know, that's what I think. When are we going to start doing our job and not just worry about ourselves? We have to be cool, but not the rest of the world, not Mother Earth, not her trees, not her plants, not her animals, only human beings.
Right. But we're going to wake up to it, just like I say we have to do this with a sense of joy, and as if we are playing, right? And then get them to come along, because they say, don't be so weird, stuck in the past,
Right. No, we're moving to the future, and there's great faith, and we just carry the torch like you're doing, and everything you're doing is amazing. And Where could they see the Oxford debate?
Oh, you can see the Oxford debate on YouTube channels. You can come to climatehealers.org and look at the Oxford tab. You click on that, it'll take you and it'll show you. There's all the videos from the Oxford debate.
Wonderful. Well, this is um, amazing. And let me just say this for people that might not know um, about allcreatures.org. So that please go to www.all-creatures.org to check out the hundreds of thousands of free resources updated daily, 7 days a week without break, or sign up for our weekly newsletter. Please be sure to search vegan churches on our site to find vegan faith-based resources near you. And if you know of a resource that's not on our list, please reach out to our executive director, Tams at all-creatures.org. So, Dr. Rao, is there anything, what's the main thing you want us to remember from this?
I have faith. Have courage, be kind, and all will be well. This is the first Cinderella principle that I wrote about my granddaughter. So everything is going to work out, and just stick with it. Okay, keep at it.
Well, we will, definitely I will, and the rest of us will, and I'm so grateful for you, Dr. Rao, and JJ, and Allison, and everyone else who's watching. Please check. I love being a certified climate healer, so I encourage you all to get your certification also, to get the knowledge behind you and to make a difference. All of us count. Everything we do counts. And so I'm grateful for everyone, all of your little seeds you're planting, all of the wisdom that has been brought to us in this wonderful hour. So thank you so much again, Dr. Rao, and go to climatehealers.org.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.